So I found this guy, Johann Bourgeois, from the White Cube Gallery. So the White Cube Gallery, which I think is a really an amazing, if I go back, it might be here in history. Yeah, so this is the White Cube Gallery as an account, which generally is pretty much a gold mine for bonkers stuff, as far as it's, admittedly, there's going to be a lot of kind of pretentious nonsense here, but occasionally you come across stuff which is truly astonishing. And this guy's work, for me, blew my mind. And I'll play this. I don't think there's any volume. You might be able to hear that. But these are kind of installations and performances. And I just was blown away by the kind of choreography and the chaos and what he's doing. And I'll show you his profile in a minute. But just, I loved the way that he'd taken this installation and just made an art piece out of it with these poor people who just getting dizzy. So I was like, this guy is nuts. Show me more. And when I went to what he was doing, this is the kind of things he was doing. And it was these interesting kind of films. This one, I think, is for Apple, but it's to do with like just playing with your senses and sort of, you know, like, I'll just shut up and let it play. And you can kind of see the behind the scenes of how it was done. So why this is interesting, and I will stop it. So when I'm looking for this, like if I've got my creative director head on, there's a couple of things I'm looking for. One, I want to know who's involved in it. So I can see they've got these people directing it. So I'm already going to kind of go, okay, that's quite interesting. I want to know like, who are these people and what are they doing? And so I can follow them, because they might, like I said, I saw this guy's video, that spinning thing, and I was like, this is bonkers. Who is this bloke? And you follow him and then you're like, okay, this is really interesting. And what I used to do in the ad agency was you would get in reels of interesting directors and you would go through them and you'd just be looking for stuff, because unfortunately a lot of ideas would come from, you've seen something and then you can apply it to an ad. And I might have said this before, but this is a good example of, we were asked to work on a Scottish Widows brief, and the deal was Scottish Widows had just shot this fantastic, it was a beautifully shot ad, but rather depressing. And it was basically of pensioners still working. So kind of old people pushing supermarket trolleys, just, you know, straining to do it. And it was quite bleak and depressing. And it was all about sorting your pension out so you didn't have to work to your death. And the boss who did it got fired, and a new guy came in and he hated it. So even though it cost over £1 million, he's like, no, I want another one. And they binned it. And his thing was like, bring back the widow. We love the Scottish Widow. We want to bring her back to all the ads. So what they did was, this was the brief, and the carrot was, it's £1 million budget. Like, if you get this, you'll be made, and it'll be really good for your reel. So we worked for ages, for like probably 10 days solid, on trying to come up with ideas for this script. And then there was this other team in the agency who were very good, and they're very shrewd. And now, I don't know if you can remember it, but there's a video by Madonna called Frozen, where she is, funnily enough, in a black cape like the Scottish Widow. And as she falls to the ground and shatters, she turns into like crows. Now, what they did was take the Frozen video and go, why don't we do this? But instead of crows, she just turns into whatever we're talking about. Like, so if it's insurance, it can be like bikes or whatever. And they just went into the creative director of that video and go, can't we just do something like this? And that's what won the pitch. And they went to Iceland and they shot a video of the Scottish Widow effectively, you know, doing that. And it was this really tough lesson of, God, we completely overthought this. We spent too long on the concept and like trying to be original. And that's really important. Like as a kind of, I guess, one of my sort of core values is that desire to kind of be original and push ideas. But there's also an element of like, you have 100%, you've got to find the balance of spending 80% on the concept, because if you only leave 20% for execution, you always undercook execution, which means you never quite fulfill the idea, and it never quite does. It doesn't get anything, doesn't get any awards. People don't really care. And the balance is always somewhere between like 60-40 in one direction. And these guys were masters at finding really good reference material and then finding a way of working an interesting like concept into it. And this is the kind of thing I'm talking about, because if I look at the other stuff this guy's done, this is it, but a lot of them are quite bizarre sort of art installation pieces. And that, for me, I think might just be a bit too weird, but there's one I'm trying to find of the spinning, which is crazy. So for me, this is boring. I'm not into that, but there is another one. I think this is it. This could be, it's one like this. Let's play this. So when I look at that, again, and what I'm trying to think of is this juxtaposition of how can I take what people are doing in another industry, and I want to find this clip for you, which is the one that really, is it this one? Yeah, this could be at Hurricane. And you're like, this is theatre and drama, but you bring this into advertising and, or like Britain's Got Talent, you blow people's mind. And so it's this thing of like, when I saw this and the coordination and choreography and just chaos, I was so enchanted by it because it's so hard to pull off and so crazy. And as Sarah will know, that's what it's like working on the proof of trust currently. So that is itself is this. So this guy is someone that I'm going to probably want to keep an eye on and follow because he's clearly creative. His stuff is bonkers, and although it's slightly pretentious, it's interesting. And so when we're looking for creative stuff, it's good to have seen this because we don't know where this would have come from. And that first video, which was an Apple ad, I know for certain that someone would have seen that something like this and it would have come to this is, what is this? Campaign for Gap, is it? So this is, look, here you go. This is what we've just seen in the Apple ad, but they've turned like an MC sketch or MC Escher picture into like a Gap ad. And this is what some clever creative and ad agency has seen and basically nicked. So I think that this is someone who's worth following because they are nuts and what they're doing is crazy and they're really interesting. So that was the first up of like my selection of things. So that's Johann Bourgeois. And like I said, if you can find more people, so you click here and you go, right, here are more interesting things, deep dive into them, follow them for a little bit, see if there's anything good, because already you are swimming and getting inspiration from somewhere that not many people are looking. And they're, you know, this is the thing of, we want to always slightly be stepping outside of our industry to find inspiration. Next up was the work by Salman Khusru. And what I really liked about these was just, if you, there's like, they're like impasto portraits, but the use of thick paint and sort of mixing with sculpture is extraordinary. They're expressive, they're visceral, they're new and interesting, and they're beautifully done. And it's very difficult to paint like this because you're not mixing the paint, you're blocking on blocks of paint. And so when I saw these, I was just like, these are fantastic. And again, what we're looking for is new styles of doing things and how people are doing them. And I think there's an interesting study in how an artist is promoting himself with a kind of sped up time lapse of what he does. But also, I just think the pictures are beautiful and they're stunning. They're sort of Francis Bacon-esque. And like I said, this is the kind of stimulation I'm looking for, because if I can bring this kind of look into a job I'm doing, the working with these people will elevate your work for you. You don't need to kind of keep reinventing a clever way of doing something. You just need to find a clever person to do it for you. And so with all these things, this is what I think this person gives you. And I think then what it comes down to is, what am I kind of, what's the concept that I could use this for? And immediately what this reminds me of is, there is a, I want to say Skittles or Starburst advert, which is where a guy carves, it's like an 80s rip-off of a classic 80s movie, and he carves a head out of Starburst, and he starts to sort of like, and it's his high school crush, and he shows her because he's carved like a sculpture of her head out of Starburst, and then he starts to eat it in front of her, and it's just dark and twisted, but kind of wonderful and funny at the same time. And the fact that I can still remember it is really indicative. So for me, although there is repetition here, these are quite interesting. And if you're going to be doing like a magazine cover and you've got this on the cover, it's striking, it gets our attention. And clearly this guy can paint beautifully anyway, but these are really interesting for me. And I think, so like when I see this, I think, okay, what could that be also? Could that be mountains? Could that be something where you zoom in and then pull out? And it's like, oh, it's a face, but it looked like it was like a landscape at first. Who knows? But I love these. I thought these were really interesting and really different. And this is what we're trying to get when we're trying to be inspired. We're trying to find things that are shocking and surprising and different. And this certainly ticks the box here. Next up was this identity for, what was it, River Street Joe. And I mean, the die line's a great sort of place for branding and all that kind of, you know, packaging. I kind of was nostalgic for this because I, somewhere in my soul, I love kind of American hipster, trendy, kind of industrial retro branding. Kind of, I love these kind of typefaces and all these textures. And although it's not particularly innovative, I just found it really, it's the sort of project I would have loved doing. And if you know, like there's the Hustle Supply Co, which is Jeremy Vesey, who makes all these kind of typefaces, all these things, and it is derivative of that. But I just felt that the colors and the tones and the typography were really nice. And so when I saw it, I wanted to share it because actually I like this little River Street knock up there. And for me, as a sort of as an identity, I just really enjoyed this one. I think everything about the photography, the colors and the backgrounds, all the kind of growler jars and everything was just really nice. And like I said, this is I think it's called Capstone or something, this typeface. I think but it's free on Google, so it's quite nice. But like I said, this is a really nice branding identity, which really stuck with me. So I thought it was really great. And I think I can probably find you the typeface very briefly. Is it Shackleton? That's it. So this is the actual typeface, Shackleton. And the reason why I've decided for that, because the Fort Foundry that make it, and it's an Adobe font, have some really nice typefaces. So they're all kind of an ilk, but certainly Prohibition's beautiful, and Industry is a lovely layered typeface, and Gin is great. So Shackleton, and they got Colt. So all of this are all typefaces I own, and they're perfect for doing kind of rustic branding for coffee shops or bars or breweries and that kind of stuff. So yeah, that was why I wanted to share that because I thought it was really beautiful. Next up is the Around the World in City Radio. So this is a radio that you plug in the buttons and it will play radio from that country. And what I thought was quite cool was you can pick the city and then you just plug it into the front, press the button on, and it will play the radio from that city. And what's funny is, and I think I can play it here if you listen. And in fact, I'll get Siri to help me. Siri, hey Siri. Is it going to work? No. Hey Siri. Here we go. Hey Siri. You're useless. Hey Siri. Play Cool Fahrenheit.
Okay, playing Cool Fahrenheit.
So if you can hear that. This is a Thai radio station that I listen to all day, every day, because I don't understand what's being said, but it's just kind of really easygoing pop music all day long. And there's something about, I will say that stupid jingle to my kids, like, get out of bed. I don't know why I sound like an idiot, but listening to radio where you don't understand what's being said is quite soothing because it just sits in the background and provides a nice little atmosphere. So when I saw this, I thought this is admittedly very expensive, but actually it's quite a cool little gift. And Uncommon Goods as a shop, just generally, they have, as their name describes, really good, interesting, unusual little like gifts and kits. I don't know if they ship to Europe because they're based in America, but as you would have seen from earlier episodes, there's the New York Times puzzle. So this is definitely one to kind of, again, check out if you're looking for something a bit more distinctive. Another Instagram follower was AirPixels, and I'm sort of torn because this is absolutely stunning photography. It's so beautifully done that you can't help but admire it. It's a little boring, but I kind of feel that if I'm following this feed, it's something that I want to follow because it's soothing to my soul. It's so aesthetically pleasing. It's enjoyable to follow. And again, if what I'm trying to do is if I find this and I think, well, look, isn't that a great shot? You know, it's so beautifully done. But I'm also looking to go, well, like, who's this person following? Who is similar to them? And I'm looking to now follow other people who I think might be able to kind of inspire me. And again, I might discover some interesting photography that's going to take me on, you know, an interesting journey of other things. And this is the whole point of why we would always be kind of very, very passively exposing ourselves to other designs and other people. So that's why I wanted to include this person, because although it's not that distinctive, it's so beautifully shot. I think you'll find certain other people, and that's why I wanted to bring it up. Okay, this is Argesta, which is a beautiful typeface. It's free, or you can pay what you want, which I think is $15, but it's so beautiful as far as the sort of look and feel of it, and it's elegant and all these things. So for me, I just thought this was, I know I picked a lot of typefaces similar to this, but what I'm trying to do is, if we can find a distinctive typeface that is unusual, beautifully crafted, then when it comes to doing logo types, this will do all the work for you, or it'll certainly do you 90%, because then you can just adjust whatever it is. The kerning, you might want to cut it up, change the dimensions. But, you know, this is stunning. And for $15 is beautiful. And so when I saw it, I was like, do you know what, this is great. And I'm sure, judging by the typography, it's probably got a text version with it, but it's certainly really nice. Let's see, what would you pay if you had to buy this? Choose your price. There you go, €15. I mean, that is, for me, that's an absolute bargain. I'd snap that up today. I think I might already have done, because again, it's just going to be something which is going to already accelerate me to a level of sophistication within a branding identity that is going to, you know, I'm going to struggle to find with conventional typefaces. And like I said, if we're going to stand out, we need to just stretch ourselves a little bit and look beyond what we get for free from Google and Adobe. Next up, with these astonishing doodles, these optical illusions. And the reason I wanted to show these is because I think that these are the things that you want to be, again, exposed to, but also be aware of the standard of what's happening out there as far as sort of designs that are going to get shared online. When I see these, I'm enormously impressed by the complexity and the attention to detail and the layers and the talent. And it's a case of, these are just very, very beautiful, simple illustrations. And I think as an artist, the way you promote yourself in this style is really impressive, because you are playing with your drawings, the digital manipulation, layers, depth, all these kind of characteristics. And I thought they were really distinctive and stood out, because I think, again, this person has kind of gone beyond that balance of including me and the drawing in the picture. So yeah, this was these are really nice. And I just thought that not only is this person extremely talented, which we can tell by the 1.2 million followers, but their drawings are great as well. And it's this thing of, how can I consume content that is going to make me feel good, but also is going to kind of remind me of the standards I need to be working towards if I'm going to stand out in this world. These are very, very enjoyable videos by Oscar Pedersen. And again, what I'm looking for here is, who's someone I can commission to do interesting idents for me. And as you can see from the sound design and everything, which again, he's referencing the people here. So if I like the sound, I might want to go to Binary Charm and commission them to do some work for me. Now, these aren't particularly original. We've seen a lot of these on the internet before, but I just think they're just great. And where I would be looking to use these would be as idents for TV shows and just sort of graphic interludes. And they're very shareable. They're very enjoyable. Like I said, they're just really nice. And the sound is great. So yeah, this guy has got loads of superb work. it's really visually pleasing, and it's just one of those things that, again, I think you can get away with using this for kind of installations and on just video, and they don't really have to have any meaning. And I'm a big fan of having a meaning behind your work, but these are just, all you need to do is stick a logo on it, and it just becomes a visually pleasing animation loop that is just quite compelling. And that's all it needs to be. But if I commissioned this work and then I was like, right, we did this for Channel 4, and then the Channel 4 logo is on there, and then it goes in my portfolio, it's great for me, it's great for the person, everyone wins. And the reality is, the way you do this and you save time in the project is to have this person somewhere stored away, so you can go, I know someone who could be perfect, and you bring in Oscar Peterson and he does something amazing like this. And the beauty is, because you've already seen it, this is a particularly good one. And again, we've got another thing, another sound person. So like I said, these are fantastic. They're really weird and just really compelling, and I really enjoy. I think this was another quite good one. Oh, hold on, it's that one, which was quite nice. And this one I think is quite good as well. So yeah, they stood out. Stunning, interesting, and definitely highly recommended. This is Authentic Sans, which is free. I love it as a typeface, and I used it in Identity recently because it's a real classic kind of modern geometric typeface that you see in a lot of identities. So if you were looking at things like the Spotify identity, any kind of cool startup is using a typeface like this, but it's not too rounded like Sophia Pro or anything like that. It's got a sort of a normal feel to it. I can't really, it's hard to describe because I'm not that good with my typography terminology. But when I look at this, I think this could work really great as you know, as just sort of body text to give an identity a lift and a modern feel. And I think it's completely free. Now, there is a point behind all of this which I haven't fully read for a while, but it is beautiful and authentic sounds. So authentic.website/sans is where you can pick it up. Next is another series of drawings, but again, what we're trying to do is elevate what we do, and they've managed to give these drawings a 3D feel by adding a glow to them. Again, stunning, because you're illustrating, you know, I've seen lots of people do really good drawings, but this takes it to another level, and that's what makes you stand out. And I think this whole thing of blending in sort of 3D art and lighting and shadow and shade is stunning. And I think, again, it's so good that you could produce really good sort of design work and print work using kind of this style, or hiring this person to do this kind of work, because it's distinctive and it stands out. So I wanted to share it because I thought these are just stunning illustrations anyway, but they're okay. They're kind of like a 7 out of 10. You add this kind of thing to them, they start to elevate to like an 8, maybe even a 9. And that's when, you know, when you're sharing your work or trying to get an agent, it's a case of you can really, you know, people are going to respond to you because of this. Oh, Lanine's got a pop off. Sorry, Lanine, I'm recording this time, so I will definitely share this. This was an article in trends.co, which is quite a good one. It's a bit old, but the reason why I just wanted to feature it is because it talks about the future of media and pop culture and 30 companies shaping the media landscape. Now, I don't know if these are going to be the top 30, but what I feel it does for my mind is it educates me into businesses that I'm not aware of. I know Barstool Sports, I know OnlyFans, I don't know many others, but it's got them kind of listed. So the reason being is this sort of, it's like you can download the report. But what I want to do, and I want to encourage you to do, is to go, okay, so who are these people? So if David Dobrik is shit hot and up and coming, I want to know why, because I want to know what's he doing. Because if he's 22 years old with 18 million subscribers, he's fairly, you know, he's, as much as anyone can sort of doesn't like YouTubers, he is switched on. So I want to know kind of, who is he? Now, this, I think, is a report that you can download, and there is a subscription element to this. But the advantage is, and I think, again, because Sarah's working with me with Proof of Trust, you come up against lots of companies that have a fairly conventional approach to how they do things, and they always do what they've always done, and they don't change with the times. And I'm not saying they should drop their business model completely, but they should certainly look at what other people are doing in their space, because they're the people that are going to overtake them in a few years. and maybe try and adopt some of those approaches. This is why Facebook bought Instagram. It could see that it was succeeding, and it was much easier to buy or incorporate the same strategy as what Instagram is doing than start another brand. That's why Instagram copies and does reels and all that kind of stories. That's how they evolve. But they're only able to evolve because they're paying attention to what else is happening in their market. So this is a report. This is worth consuming, because if you spend every day, I'm going to research one of these companies. After a month of like just absorbing what they're doing, you're going to come up and you're going to get a brief, and you're going to be like, wouldn't this be cool if, or how would I approach this if I was thinking like OnlyFans, or what would Barstool Sports do with this brief? It's going to stretch your thinking, and that's going to make you better. A couple more. This was the final two. So this was the final one, actually. So this was a lady called Mona Caron, and she does these extraordinary, huge murals on the side of buildings. And I don't like her style particularly, but I'm immensely impressed by the enormity of these murals. And actually, when you see that she's had to paint these from a crane on a giant building, you're just like, oh my God, that's got to take hours. And they actually look really nice. And I think actually the way she fuses these murals with the environment, so they're kind of these weird, almost like weeds. I just thought they would kind of stand out and quite surprising. And it's this thing of, like I said, I wouldn't buy one of her prints, but I'd like to know she exists. I'm interested with what she's doing. And so that was why I wanted to do it. So, pardon me. Now I'm going to move on to the teaching. Did anyone have any questions or thoughts as before we switch across? No? Okay, cool. Hide that.